and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. Here with me to break down all things All-Star Race, it's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Kyle. Yeah, we were talking pre-show about the very interesting qualifying format. I'm interested to see what your take is, and then also if any of you out there have any comments or want to let us know how you felt about that, please tell us in the comments and tell us how good you thought it was or bad it was or how somebody got screwed over like Eric Almirola. But yeah, no, I mean, all in all, it was pretty interesting, and I'm just excited for the race.
Yeah, definitely let us know what you thought. Obviously, from my perspective, I think it's a cool wrinkle for the All-Star race. I think, obviously all the major sports have some sort of issue with just getting interest in the All-Star game. I think NASCAR probably has the best commitment from its drivers and actually it's competitive and stuff. I thought it was a cool thing. It's definitely not something I'd want to see every race happen, but I think once a year for the All-Star race, let the pit crew get some shine. I saw Jamie Little interviewing the Jack guy and some other people, and these guys never get any camera time, so it's kind of cool for them, obviously. Let them shine. I don't know, we were talking about this a little bit. I don't know if they necessarily need to run the lap. I think it's really just they had this envision of them racing off pit road.
Exactly.
But whoever won the pit crew portion basically dominated. So I think what you do is have them pull up pit crew, pull up to the next block, and then have it be done. They don't have to.
Yeah, I almost feel like if they would have done it with them just at a standing, just at a stop, and that's where they started the pit stop, I think it would have been a little bit better in terms of how close each run was going to be, because you saw Kyle Busch, for instance, pulling into the pit stall and stopping short and barely getting into it. So he was stopping before everyone else, which he kind of cheated the system in a way, but it was legal. And then like I said, Eric Almirola, we were talking before recording, he didn't even know that the thing had turned green and it was time to go because they had that super long pause before it. So they should have had a mulligan for his.
Yeah, the first run should have had a little more. I don't know if they could have had dummy cars out there or what, but I mean, I don't know. At the same time, they got to figure it out and they got to make it happen. But I thought it was fun. Thought it was unique. I don't think like I said, I don't want it for every race, but for once a year, I think it can be fine.
Yeah.
It was fun to see. It was fun to watch some of the open stuff too, and see a few different things. I was hoping, I think the open race being on Saturday and then having the full race on Sunday might make a little more sense. But I think because of where they're racing and having to do it later at night, definitely had an impact. Obviously with qualifying, we talked about this a little bit too, is, as the temperatures cooled down, it seemed like the cars could get a lot more grip. And so that I think that impacted qualifying too.
Yeah.
Your guy Willie B, he looked real fast, and I think we'll figure out what's going on when we get into Sunday. But I guess let's look at DraftKings. We'll talk about kind of some of our thoughts over there. We'll obviously hit our betting card where it's at, what we may be adding, and then any other thoughts heading into Sunday. So let's throw up the DraftKings, and we can look at building some lineups. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Is that better?
Looks good.
A little more. That's better. Okay, so let's do that. Kyle Larson is the favorite, 10K. It's really annoying that they didn't, despite us knowing the running order, they have no running order, and somehow Ryan Blaney's 1 even though he's 2, and then Kyle Busch is 2 even though he's 1. So that's certainly something. Kyle Larson starting 4th, Chase Elliott 9,700, Kyle Busch 9,500, Danny Hamlin, and then Martin Truex roll out the 9K. So of the 9K region, I guess you could say, what's your thoughts? Where's your potential, potential spots going?
Of that crew, Kyle Larson starting fourth. He's so good at this track, and
Yep.
especially with him only being 10K, I feel like this is a good spot to get on him. But of those guys, I feel like Denny Hamlin again. He's starting 16th in the field for the All-Star race at 9,200. Has all the goods to potentially win the race if we were expecting Toyota to get their Sunday cars together.
Yeah.
I think Hamlin has as good a shot as any of those guys.
And I mean, Kyle Busch, Toyota, starting first. Kurt Busch, Toyota, starting fifth. Martin Truex, Toyota, starting seventh. Like 3 of the top 8 were all Toyota. Obviously, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace didn't look bad, but just weren't quite fast enough to make it happen. And then, obviously, with only 24 cars in the field, it's going to be interesting to see how some of the passing happens, if there is a little bit, and obviously with less laps too, how that all impacts. So I mean, Hamlin is interesting for sure.
It's also real quick before we transition there too. I think it's really important to note that the final stage, I guess the running order is going to be reset regardless, because you're going to have the guy who wins stage 1 starting on pole, guy who wins stage 2 starting second, the guy who wins stage 3 starting third, and then the person who has the fastest pit stop after stage 2 starting fourth. So I mean, you can even it's almost as if starting position this week is going to play almost no role into how well these guys are going to perform, because if they win a stage,
yes, you can go with guys that are going to start in the back, and then you'll actually have them starting where they need to be kind of at the end. So I'm curious how DraftKings is going to go off of that. I'm assuming it's just off the starting order, and that won't really be an impact. I think this week, like, I don't know, because it's not like we can get someone who's starting 35th and all of a sudden they pop up and finish with top 5 and we're feeling really good about it. So are we gonna maybe consider like a couple more of the, because obviously your leaders aren't going to be as important. This is going to be, I don't know, it's weird. Like, do we want to treat it more like a super speedway race where we need to get just as far back as we can go, or do we want to look at potential dominators combined with guys, even though they're starting 20th, 19th, like if they can get into the top 5, then maybe that's worthwhile. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting week. I think it's going to be, for at least, especially for DFS, it's going to be a light week for me. I'm not going to go crazy. I think I'm just going to kind of build a couple lineups for shits and giggles, and then call it from there.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see too. Like, obviously, you'll have to adjust your lineups after the open race, but a guy like Tyler Reddick sitting there at 8,000 as we move into that 8K range, he's not even qualified for the All-Star race yet. So he's starting 21st through 24th. Yeah, and I mean, he was one of the fastest cars in practice and qualifying.
Won the Xfinity race.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Reddick is absolutely somebody I'm compelled in. And even Eric Jones too. Like, he is somebody that we kind of gravitate towards naturally. We kind of fade in and out on him, but I expect him to run really well, assuming he can make the field. And obviously, when we flip over and talk betting, I think that's going to happen. So we'll be able to adjust all of our lineups accordingly once all of qualifying is done, the opens decided, and all that good stuff. Alex Bowman looked not great. Not super excited about his potential this week. Where's he starting? Yeah, he's starting 20th. He just looked uncomfortable. His car didn't look very good. Tyler Reddick, as you mentioned, I think is going to be an absolute smash. I could see him being very popular, but that is okay. Our boy Ross Chastain looked really good. I think could be sneaky if you want to go with like kind of a second dominator, whether that's with Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson.
I also feel like Ryan Blaney, who's starting on the front row, not necessarily first, He's starting second, but
Yeah.
starting on the front row, 7,900. If
Yeah.
he can somehow get to the lead off the green and
Which he can
win stage
absolutely do.
1, like
Yep.
you're sitting good with him starting on pole for the last stage. I mean,
Yep. And he's got a short run, so he doesn't have to worry about qualifying and having like a 30 or not qualifying, pit stops where he has like a 30-second pit stop and then it ends up ruining his
exactly.
day. Yeah, no, I think that's a good call as well. Austin Dillon was just not happy with his car at all, and maybe it's a big song and dance and we'll end up wanting him in our lineups, but he's probably somebody I'm looking to avoid as we dive into the 7K range.
Well, it's interesting. Another thing to note before we even get to the race is so Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick, the RCR cars, they had some issues with their cars. Tyler Reddick is actually going to the back of the field for the open because he has to make like some change to his vehicle. And Austin Dillon was also saying he was having difficulty turning. So we'll see if they're able to make the correct fixes. Reddick was still fast.
Yep.
It's just now he has to work through the entire field to win one of those stages in the open.
Yeah, and maybe Austin Dillon, obviously you and your teammate is that fast and looks that good. Your guys can get with him and be like, hey, what are we doing differently? What's wrong with our car?
Yeah.
And potentially fix some stuff. So maybe he's actually somebody that come Sunday morning, when we're building, or I guess Sunday afternoon, because this is going to be 5:00 out here on the West Coast, so 8:00, almost 9:00. Back east, pretty crazy.
Poor East Coasters.
West Coast is the best coast for watching live sports. I tell you what.
That's right.
But yeah, I think maybe interesting. Obviously, how he performs in the open race, I think, will dictate how he has to obviously make the field first, but could be somebody that's, I don't know. It's hard with you think maybe they could figure some stuff out. So we have a few options of kind of names to mix in if they make the field. I think Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez, and Ricky Stenhouse for that matter. He looked pretty good.
Yep.
I think he will be a strong contender. What are you doing? My dog is just losing his mind back here. He's trying to dig a hole. And obviously with Tyler Reddick going to the back, it opens up things up in near the front for him to be
especially
even
early
closer.
on.
Yep. You just got to win one of those stages. So I like him to win. Obviously we'll flip over and look betting here in a second. But I think he is in your field when it comes to race day. So I do like him as well. Cindric looked pretty good as we dive into the 6K range. And then obviously your guy Eric Almirola, but starting 8th, I don't know that even at 6,300 I want to go there.
I mean, he ran 2 extremely fast laps to get to that point. I mean, practice he was one of the fastest guys, and then qualifying he was one of the fastest. I mean, he was a top 8 driver. So
yeah, that's true.
Just
if he
goes to show
doesn't
you,
have that pit stop issue, maybe
yeah,
he's even starting higher because, as you mentioned,
and too, it's the race is so short.
Yep.
I'm not as worried about like long run speed and fall off on the car's tire or a guy just not performing that well over a long run. So I mean, this is literally anybody's race to win, which is why I still like Bubba Wallace starting where he is.
Yep.
Chris Butcher, if he can get in, I think he's got a shot to potentially threaten the top of the field. Like Brad Keselowski, you can skip right over him because he looked clearly lost while trying to drive his car.
Yeah. And then obviously we'll have to figure out some stuff at the back. So let's build a lineup, Brian. And we'll see. Obviously, we're gonna have to make some guesses, make some assumptions at who may or may not be in the field, and then adjust accordingly come Sunday morning. Brian and I will try and tweet out some thoughts after the open race before the actual race if there's anything both betting and DFS wise that we need to tweak accordingly. So Brian, I think we're simpatico on one name, so I think we should throw Tyler Reddick into our lineup.
Do it.
Based on, we both, the odds of him making the field are really high. I think he looked awesome. Obviously, he's been incredibly fast all weekend. And at 8K, obviously, if he doesn't make the field, it's really easy to pivot to Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, even Christopher Bell. Like there's Kevin Harvick. Like I'm happy to go to a lot of those names, so it's easy to get some motive to get him around if I need to. If for some reason he doesn't make the field.
Yeah, no, Reddick is like going to be a mainstay in lineups this week. I think for me too, you got to put Kyle Larson in there. He's been so good at Texas.
Yep.
Of late, and I mean he's won 2 All-Star races in his career. So
wonder if he can get 3 in a row. That would be quite impressive. This is where it gets a little interesting because we want to get a potential early, front runner car. I mean, we could also look at some of the other, questionable drivers. Actually, I'm going to put Stenhouse in 7,100. I think he makes the field as well. Once again, if he doesn't make it, your guy Chris Buescher at 6,700 could make some sense. Bubba Wallace at 65, starting 17th, could make some sense. And even Almirola, if you want to kind of tweak your lineup a little bit,
6,300.
at 6,300, you could find ways to get there as well. So we're taking some gambles with Reddick and Stenhouse, but it's easy to pivot off them if for some reason they don't make the field.
Yeah, I think the next guy for me, we got to go to Ross the Boss. Dude has been absolutely on fire this year.
Yep, I like that call quite a bit. As we were talking a little bit, Unibet has odds to make the NASCAR championship round, so the Final Four. And he was like plus 165 to do that. He obviously speaks to how strong he's been. He's been good on 1.5 miles. He's been good on, a variety of tracks. So I like that call quite a bit. So now we have 8,150 for 2 of our final spots. Do we want to take a shot on Alex Bowman, who will be starting 20th, but just did not look great? Bubba, as we talked about a couple times, your Denny Hamlin, we could get up to him and then kind of figure that out. There's a variety. Obviously, William Byron looked great. We could go that route too.
I was gonna say it'd be interesting to do Larson and Byron, 2 guys starting near the top of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, I mean, I don't want to say guaranteeing, but with the first stage only being 25 laps, almost guaranteeing one of those guys to start near the front come the final stage.
Yep. And then I think we throw Kevin Harvick in, who is starting 15th and has a tremendous history at Texas, despite not qualifying quite as well as I'd hoped.
I mean, we thought the same thing last week with the old man.
Yeah. Yeah. We also had what was it, 2 weeks ago, where he started 30 something because he didn't even qualify, and he got 5th.
Yep.
So I mean, there's a variety of ways. I mean, we have 7,500 to go.
I mean, he's won 2 All-Star races in his career, so it's not like he's going to lose that.
Austin Dillon could make some sense, assuming he makes the field and figures some stuff out with his car. Your guy Chris Buescher, we could go with some way back guys. But I'm gonna since we already have 2 guys that we're hoping qualify, let's lock in a guy that we know is in the field, starting 15th, has a history at both All-Star races and at Texas. And then we can obviously pivot as needed if we don't have some of these guys make the lineup. So I think that's where our heads go, and I think it makes sense. And we'll see. Come, as I mentioned, we'll try and tweet some stuff out. Obviously, we're recording Saturday night. We're waiting for some stuff to happen, but post open race, before the actual race, we'll try and get some any additional thoughts, updates, that kind of stuff. So follow us at Notorious KRO, at Gracie Rules 14, at AOP FPAOP on Twitter. Let's look at where we are for our betting card for the week. Obviously, I took the L with Kevin Harvick not making the top 8. Ditto for you with Bubba Wallace. but that's fine. There's still a long way to go. As I mentioned a couple times, I like Stenhouse to qualify. He is plus 100 at DraftKings. We can look at what the updated odds are. I believe it's still the same. If you shop it, you can find a better number. Eric Jones minus 160. Also like that quite a bit. Once again, if you shop it, you can find a better number. I will mention a couple of the numbers as I pull them up on my favorite, Brian and I's favorite offshore. So, for example, I got Stenhouse at plus 175. I got Eric Jones at plus 125. Brian has Christopher Buescher to qualify at 100 plus 100. I got him at plus 225. So, always be on the lookout. Justin Haley was actually worse at where we look. So I got him at 4-1. I just felt like that number was too good. I feel like he has a decent shot to qualify, but only put like a quarter unit. Outrights right now, I have Ryan Blaney at 12-1, and I have Austin Dillon at 60-1. Not feeling great about the Austin Dillon after qualifying, but we'll see how that goes. Two bets I feel great about is Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson over Chase Elliott. Minus 110, minus 115. I'm gonna have to see how those have moved so far. Over on Brian's card, still alive. Ross Chastain 10-1, Eric Jones 40-1, Bubba Walls 50-1, Christopher Bell 16-1, Hamlin over Truex at minus 110. So that is where we sit now. Let's flip over to DraftKings and see what we can potentially add as we look at the odds. So Kyle Busch is 6-1, plus 150 to top 3, minus 130 to top 5. He is your betting favorite along with Kyle Larson. William Byron's at 8-1. Ross Chastain's 9-1. So Brian got some nice, it's not tremendous value, but he got a better number than what's currently posted at DraftKings. So that's interesting. Anything in there before we dip into the double digits?
I mean, Larson at 6-1. I mean, both Larson and Kyle Busch at 6-1 are great odds for only a 24 car field. Yeah. They've been strong recently, especially Larson at Texas in particular. And then the two guys right behind them, William Byron and Ross Chastain. I would not fault somebody for just peppering those top 4 guys and just calling it a day and just rooting for one of those 4 to win the race, because they've been like the 4 strongest cars of late, it seems. So
yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny that we talk about all year long about how anybody could win the race, and then we're going into the All-Star race, and there's like, well, there's a couple guys that are just that dominant, and they've looked great, and that both Kyles I'm a fan of this week. And if you don't want to bet 6-1 on outright, I totally get that. Find a head-to-head you like. Find a matchup. Find a group. Find some other way to bet with them, and you'll be pretty happy. Ryan Blaney 10-1, Denny Hamlin 10-1, Chase Elliott 12, Tyler Reddick at 14 is pretty wild. Obviously, there's a big assumption he makes the field, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. But there is potentially misses. So, and I assume that there, maybe some of the books will refund if he doesn't start, because I know some of them will do that, but I'm guessing since it's kind of like a qualify to get in kind of thing, that they might just, if you make a bet on them to qualify or to race, that even if they don't qualify, then you don't get your money back. I don't know.
I gotta know how Kurt Busch, who is coming off of a win and has looked great recently, 16-1.
Yep.
He had like the 5th fastest qualifying time.
Yep.
I mean, if you want to go back to back with the guy who's just won a race. I can't fault you. Those are good odds for a race that only has 24 guys.
Is it insane to me or to you that I'm actually less inclined to bet him? If he hadn't won the race last week, I'd be all over him. But because he won the race, I'm like, is he gonna win twice, back to back? I don't know. But yeah, you're right. That based on performance, based on how his cars look, based on all of the things, and obviously his brother's running really well too. But
yeah,
16-1 is a really, really good number in a field this small. I think that is a great call on your part.
and not to make light of a serious situation with him and his wife who are getting a divorce right now, but I mean, you don't know if she's going to try to take him to the cleaners in terms of his millions that he makes off of
$1 million
NASCAR.
would sure
So
be nice for all those legal fees and
yeah, he might need that extra million in cash. So
Logano 18, Bowman 18, Christopher Bell being 20 in a field this small is kind of interesting.
yeah, but
Harvick's
again, like
35.
last week,
Harvick is 35.
no way Harvick wins. I cannot envision him winning the race. I just can't.
And you're the same person who bet Eric Jones, correct? Who's not even in the race. I guess for our betting cards, if they don't, like, we're not gonna avoid the bets, right? Or
because we already made these bets. So like,
yeah,
if I have Eric Jones and he doesn't make it, it's automatically it's an L.
yeah. Bubba Wallace at 50 is kind of interesting.
My thing about Bubba is the fact that because this is such a short race, I feel as if he could potentially move his way up to the front and just do enough to somehow muck it up and win.
Yeah. Eric Almirola at 60 looked good. Was really fast, but it's Eric
Daniel
Almirola.
Suarez at 62. I mean,
yeah,
you got to. The Trackhouse team is driving incredibly good this year. It's also interesting when you look at those odds right there. He has better top 3 odds than Austin Dillon, who's the same outright odds as him, and his are substantially better.
Allmendinger is guaranteed a spot in the field and is 100-1, 12-1 to top 5. I might have to look at that top 10 market on him. That might be a decent number to get to. Chris Buescher, obviously, I'm wondering, like, if these guys make the field, are they going to repost these numbers at dramatically shorter odds? I assume so.
I mean, you would assume they would have to.
I don't know.
Because as the saying goes, even the sun shines on a dog's ass sometimes. And I mean, in only 24, that's like almost half of what a normal NASCAR race is. Nobody's going to have 150-1 odds.
They don't have top 10s yet, do they?
I don't even think they're going to come out with top 10s. That's finishing in the top half of the field, essentially.
Let's look at so odds to qualify. Austin Dillon was like minus 350. Now he's minus 140. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I got jobbed on Chris Buescher is now 150.
Yeah, Buescher's plus 150 now. You could always double down if you're really feeling strong about it. Let's see what else we get. The Custerman 3-1. Corey LaJoie's up to 8-1. These numbers have moved. Eric Jones is minus 150 now instead of minus 160. As I mentioned, I got that at plus money. Shop it if you can. Justin Haley is still 4-1. Stenhouse at plus 100. Yeah, so he's still pretty much the same.
Tyler Reddick is moving as we speak.
It's minus 300.
It was minus 400 when I first opened the site 10 minutes ago.
That's interesting. Like, what has he done that makes? I mean, I guess my guess is minus 400. They were just not getting any money, so they wanted to move it a little bit. Let's see what props we can get. We still haven't made a show bet for the week, so maybe we can find something to cobble together there. I like Chastain versus Truex. See, I got Kyle Larson over Chase Elliott at minus 115. It's now minus 125.
Found one I'm making.
Value.
Christopher Bell over Joey Logano. Minus 105. My
Okay.
hatred for Logano continues.
Tyler Reddick, we've talked about how strong he's been. I know Denny Hamlin's been great at Texas. Plus 105 to beat Denny Hamlin. It's just like, I don't like, if Hamlin all of a sudden pops and wins a stage, then he's going to jump in front of Reddick, and maybe Reddick's, they're running competitively. So that's the only thing with some of these head-to-heads that could really get interesting. Austin Cindric minus 130 over Chase Briscoe. Excuse me. Oof.
That seems
Aggressive.
big.
I'm going to add that. I'm going to take Briscoe over Cindric.
Yeah, that seems like that should be closer to both of them at minus 110, not Cindric being such a large favorite.
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's obviously a shorter race, easier for cars to finish, but we've seen it enough. I'm getting plus money. I will take that. What else do we have? Ross Chastain versus Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch versus Chase Elliott. Yep, Kyle Busch. So I got Kyle Busch over Elliott at minus 110. It's now minus 130. Part of me wants to just hit Chase Elliott on the other end, give it plus 20 and lock in a winner, but I won't do that. Briscoe at plus money over Eric Jones. I'm assuming if Jones doesn't make the field, then this gets avoided. But yeah, that's interesting. Anything
I'm
else?
interested to see how these guys race on Sunday too, just because it is essentially stage by stage racing. Like each stage is going to be its own race in itself.
Right. And there's $1 million on the line, as we talked about. These are FanDuel's odds. I just wanted to bring them up for a little comparison's sake. Looks pretty similar. Like, I don't think it's anything, any numbers that are insanely different. Anything jumping out to you? Any numbers that really? So Kurt Busch once again 16. Feels pretty on brand.
Yeah, they feel pretty similar.
Yeah, I don't think they did anything crazy. Let's see if there's anything that can be had over here. Top 3 could be fun. Let's look at the head-to-head. So we got Chastain versus Blaney. A little bit better price on Chastain. I think he was minus 115 over on DraftKings. So that's something to consider if you have access to both. Cindric's even bigger over here, so plus 108. Yeah, it's 110 at DraftKings, but it's minus 130, so that's interesting. Tyler Reddick versus Denny Hamlin. Once again, I like Reddick if you want to fade Hamlin, but Hamlin's been so good, it's hard to do that.
I got better odds with Bell at DK at minus 105.
Yeah. I did want to throw up some Formula One numbers if you're feeling so inclined. Max Verstappen is just, when he finishes the race, he wins. So I wouldn't fault anyone who went with that, especially if you want to parlay it with, I don't know, your favorite top 5 or your favorite top 3 or something, or even a winner. If you want to do a little.
Wait, aren't they in Spain this week?
They are in Spain this week.
How do you not go with Carlos Sainz?
He's been snake bitten, man. He's been like Nikita Mazepin once he left Formula One. He's been the guy that's had the issue. I don't hate Leclerc at plus 145. I want to see what DraftKings has. I feel like it was lower, but I want to check because they're in Spain this week. Combining plus 155, man. That's a good number. Leclerc was the fastest guy once again. It'll be interesting to see if assuming. And the one thing is, there's no Checo this week for Max to have kind of some help. So
what's up with
his wife had a baby.
So
I don't think he's racing this week. I know he didn't qualify. I know he and Guanu Joe and someone else aren't racing this week. So, but anyways, that aside, Mercedes looked fast too. So, if you want to take a shot on Lewis Hamilton or George Russell, that those are some good numbers. I'd probably go down to like probably go down. I'd probably look for like a finishing position.
I saw that Haas looked pretty quick too in qualifying.
Haas,
Both their
yeah, they
cars
got
qualified inside the
both their
top 10,
drivers
right?
into Q3, which is really impressive. So what is this? Top 6? Yeah, man, I was getting Lewis Hamilton at like plus money to top 6 in the first couple of races.
Ooh.
That obviously those days are gone. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton plus 250 to podium. George Russell plus 165 to podium. I don't hate that. Maybe Perez is racing. Maybe he just didn't qualify. Let me do a little fact checking. Brian, do you have a best bet for the All-Star race?
I mean, this week's race is so interesting. It's hard to go with something that I feel extremely confident with. That being said, though, I'm gonna go back to it and I'm gonna double up. My best bet is gonna be Christopher Buescher to qualify for the All-Star race, adding it for another 2 units at
I
plus
like it.
150. So I
I
got
like
4
it.
units on Buescher to make the race.
Yeah, no, I think that's the move. It looks like, by the way, Checo qualified. He just didn't. Um, he just didn't. He just didn't practice. But
Oh. Where
yeah,
did he wind up qualifying though?
5th.
Oh, okay.
Let's look at I will look at the grid just so I can make sure I have it correct. Give people the actual information. Where is this week's? Okay, we're in
And that
Spain.
race starts at 6 West Coast time, right?
Yes, sir. We will be up nice and early, and then we will have a little bit of a break, roll right into NASCAR, and then we'll have NASCAR like a good chunk of the day between the Open and the All-Star race. So that's fun. Yes, we have Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Russell, Sergio, Lewis Hamilton, Bottas, and K Mags, your top 8. The way to bet Formula One for me has been looking at head-to-heads. It's especially in tracks where there's not a lot of passing, you can get good value. But that's another story for another day. I think the one question I have to answer, Brian, is what's
What's
going to
your
be
best
my
bet?
best bet. And I can't take any of my Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson head to heads because those numbers have moved far too much. And I just, I want to give people a number they can actually go bet. And I don't want to make stuff up just to inflate my percentages. Man, I that to go back to qualifying is kind of an interesting, I don't hate that. I might, considering doubling up there is not the worst. Man, I really like Tyler Reddick this week. Is there a way to attack him? Because like a top 5 is fun. I'm gonna do it. Tyler Reddick over Denny Hamlin plus 105 is going to be my second best bet today. I like Tyler Reddick a lot. Maybe the move is to take like a top 5 on him at like plus 175 and not worry about where Hamlin finishes. But he's run so good, and maybe he doesn't make it. Maybe he doesn't qualify, but I expect him to. And the odds say that there's very little reason why he shouldn't qualify.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wise bet. And I think if he qualifies, that number will move a little bit. And I know Hamlin's been good, and the Toyotas have been strong, but I expect Reddick to continue his strong weekend, finish, in that top 5 to 10 range and be in front of Denny and
I'm
chalky
just hoping that he doesn't spend all of his effort in the All-Star race, so that way we can finally get him on an outright during the regular season.
No. He's interesting because he's priced like he's won, but he's not.
Right?
He's aggressively priced, and I think that's interesting. He's even like, I mean, if
I
you
almost
really
feel like he's priced the way that Christopher Bell
Yeah.
should be priced to open weeks. Like Bell is always behind him when the odds are first dropped. Bell qualifies on pole or qualifies inside the top 5, and then his odds plummet. Whereas Reddick just kind of qualifies where they expect him, and his odds never really navigate anywhere.
Yeah, and I feel like there was a period where we were doing that with Christopher Bell, and a period where we were doing that with Ryan Blaney, and now their numbers have kind of, although Ryan Blaney's numbers haven't really come down
Yeah.
as much, but it is interesting to see. I also am adding, as I talk up Tyler Reddick, I'm adding him on an outright at 14-1. I think Kurt Busch is probably the better bet, but I'm a Tyler Reddick fanboy this week. I think there is a potential that he gets that win this week. Why is it doing that? Anyways, I'll figure that out later. But yeah, Reddick over Hamlin. I'm talking him up. I'm all over him. I'm going to take that outright because if he wins the All-Star race and I don't have an outright, I will be kicking myself. So it's on the card. It's not a big bet, but 14-1. I think it's a fun bet. So my outrights are Blaney, Reddick, and Dillon. Brian has Chastain, Jones, Wallace, and Bell. We'll see
Let's
if we
go,
can.
Bubba.
We'll see. We'll see. Come next week if we can cross a few more winners off of our board and build that bankroll. We'll be back to break it all down next Thursday, as well as recap everything there, and then we'll figure out a schedule. I am going to be out of town next weekend, but our goal is to get everything in to get you guys picks for the race on Sunday. So make sure you subscribe, like, review, all that stuff.
Tell your friends.
Let us know down what you thought of the qualifying in the comments, and we will talk to you guys next time.